We're going to go ahead and call today's meeting to order. We will start with a roll call.
Dubé,
Here.
Fox,
Here.
Getz,
Here.
Green,
Here.
Leathers, Lees,
Here.
Young.
Here. All right, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a couple of reminders before we get started. Every vote will have a roll call vote so that we can ensure that all participants are able to hear, and we've got an echo. So that reminds me of my next point. If you are not speaking, please be sure that your phone is on mute or your computer is on mute, so that we don't get a whole bunch of echoes throughout the whole room. So we appreciate that. With that said, can I get a motion to approve today's agenda?
So move. Second.
All in favor? Let's do a roll call vote.
Dubé,
Yes.
Fox,
Yeah, that's yes.
Getz,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Leathers, Lees,
Here.
Young.
I
Oh, Peggy, are you online now?
am on Teams now.
Okay.
Oh, so we can disconnect this.
Did you hang up?
Sure, hung up.
Awesome. Thank you. Great. We're going to go ahead and get started with our first agenda item, which is the recognition of the I.J. Holton Freedom Week teacher organizers, with David Brown presenting.
Good afternoon. I said I'm David Brown. I'm one of the teachers at I.J. Holton, a former social studies teacher, and kind of take care of a lot of different things at Holton at this time. I have the honor today recognizing and honoring several of the teachers from I.J. Holton. This past spring, I.J. Holton was recognized for one of the 5 statewide Promising Practices Awards from the Synergy and Leadership Exchange. Synergy Leadership Exchange is a statewide organization that annually selects or chooses schools that are implementing unique and effective practices that promote character development. This year, I submitted an application to the state about the Freedom Week that we've had. As many of you have been fortunate to visit or heard about for many years now, Alice previous to us and now I.J. Holton, 6th grade, have held a Freedom Week. It's an honor, it's a chance to recognize and honor those that have served. It shows our students, the price of freedom that we have, that we work through it. Over the years, we've had speakers, we've had assemblies, we've had members of the military that have been at school. All this started shortly after 2001, when Michael Veldman and Cheryl Dunlap had an idea and brought this forth with the 6th grade staff. That's why Cheryl's here today. Just, she's retired. She's not ever far from our hearts. So she was instrumental in creating this. For the longest time, it was 6th grade at Ellis. When 6th grade moved over to I.J. Holton, it started out as 6th grade, but then it became a whole school function. The entire school, both 5th and 6th grade, and every teacher throughout the building have an opportunity to celebrate, the freedoms that we have. Some of the things that we look at when we go through our speeches, we have, students learn about the flag etiquette. They learn about prisoners of war missing in action. They learn about the different branches of the military. They spend an entire week learning about our freedoms. This year's the 6th grade and the 5th grade, as I said, ran it. And I'd like to recognize those staff members right now. Our 5th grade staff, our social studies staff members are Lexi Stallkamp, Chris Wilker, Amanda Guffigan, Kelly Tapp, Kaya Cosman, Melissa Corfich, and then Dave Hare, who happens to do 5th grade and 6th grade, so he's got both. Then we have Brianna Kemrick in 6th grade, Timothy Owen in 6th grade, and of course Michael Belden, one of the founding fathers of Freedom. we have, in years past, this is not the first time that IJ or Alice or Austin has received the Promise of Records Order. And we usually go up to the state capitol and are recognized at the state capitol with some of our legislators that come visit us and a large presentation. That wasn't able to happen this year, so they sent us the plaques that we had, and I will share that. I guess it's probably backwards for all of you, but here is the plaque that we have. One of these will be distributed to each of the teams at IJ Holden. We have enough for every team at IJ Holden to receive their own plaque to put on display, as well as we received a plaque for Cheryl, being one of the four mothers, and of course we have Sarah Schultz is along the way, because she was also an original 6th grade staff member who was instrumental in the implementation of Freedom Week as it's developed over the last, nearly 20 years. Questions that you have about it? It's an awesome honor.
And Dave is being very humble because he was also one of the founding members of this entire program. So he will also be receiving recognition as well.
Wonderful.
And I would just like to state as well as Sarah Schultz. So when we started this in January of 2002, shortly after 9/11, Mary Kruger came to us and said, my son, many staff members are being deployed. What can social studies do? How can we recognize and show our support here at Ellis? And that's when Cheryl and I got together along with Sarah Schultz and David Brown, and we came up with Freedom Week. And from there, it went into Freedom Iraq. We did the Christmas packages, care packages, some up to 28 to 30 packages were sent. We did Valentine's, we did almost every, from the Girl Scout cookies, all that kind of stuff, for at least 10 years. Then we were recognized by the state as being Minnesota's most patriotic school. I don't believe it's never been done again since 2010. And so I personally wanted to be sure that Cheryl Dunlap, Sarah Schultz, and David Brown were recognized, because the four of us, along with the catalyst, Mary Kruger, who brought it to our attention that not only her son, but maybe other staff members and students, family members were being deployed, that we should do something to show support. And it's now been 19 years, and it's been growing and growing, and it's a wonderful program, and I'm glad to be a part of it, and to have had Cheryl, Sarah, and David also be the main developers and founders of the Freedom Week that many of you may attend. Invitations are given out over the past 19 years, so we thank you for your support as well.
I'd just like to jump in here, Kathy Green, and just say I've been around for the duration, and this truly is a proud moment for Austin. I would like to thank each and every one of you who are on my screen that had anything to do with this. I go back to the pictures that you put up. You invited students and staff members to provide pictures of active duty or vets, and those were displayed in the school, and it brought a real connection of what was happening in the world to your students, and they could, see and make that. And the other thing was, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Norm Heknovich in this whole process. Norm came forward and he gave it life. He gave his experience to that, and I know the kids, they would sit and they were just wrapped with attention when he spoke. The gentleman who brought the flags in within Austin in the years past, I can't remember what his name was, but everything about it for the kids, learning happens when you can motivate kids and get their attention. And I think every year you've had kids drawn in, you've had their attention, and it's been real, and it's a lifetime experience for them. And so I would you have all my accolades and love and thanks and everything for all the work you put into this all these years. That's it.
Thank you, Kathy. Sure, go ahead. Cheryl would like to speak.
This is Cheryl Dunlap, and of course I've been around the longest of this team, but it's really fun to run into students that are now much older looking than they were in 6th grade, and they'll often bring up the Freedom Week and things that they learned during Freedom Week. One of the most memorable, I think, is the morning that we were starting Freedom Week, and Norm was always the first on Monday of the start of Freedom Week. And over the weekend, or on Friday night until whatever time, we would all decorate the hall. So when the kids came in on Monday morning, they were just in awe of what they were seeing. Well, that particular Monday morning is the day that war was declared on Iraq. And it was like the exact timing of the beginning of Freedom Week. I don't think we'll ever quite forget that one. I don't even know what to say.
Well, we
I
want,
also want to just take an opportunity to thank Tim Owen and David Eyre and Brianna Kemrick and the social studies staff, 5th grade, Miss Tapp, Miss, Miss,
Stallcamp, Mrs. Wilker, Duncan, Mrs. Hoffman.
Yes,
Perfect.
and all being also on board as well, and making it at IJ Holton a very successful program as well. And everybody pitches in when I say I cannot find a speaker. One of my speakers bailed for reasons they had to. Somebody will step up, and we've got the Wounded Warriors coming, or they've got a parent that served, a husband and wife that served. So I want to thank those folks that I just mentioned for helping and making that week a very big success here at IJ Holton for the past 6 years.
As Michael speaks of the speakers, what do you, those that have not been a part of it, every year we get 6 different speakers to present, 3 to the 5th grade and 3 to the 6th grade. Examples are, we'll have the Moore County Sheriff talk about what happens when you done something that breaks, that takes your freedoms taken away. He said that we had, the Wounded Warrior Project. We've had refugees come. We have a staff member at IJ Holton who's a veteran herself, and she comes and presents how she went about it and what her life was like as a military person, and what's happened as a result of it. And it's gone on over the years, so we've evolved. It's a memorable, life-altering event.
thank you so much for bringing your team to the school board meeting today. I know I don't think I can say enough about IJ Holton and what it means to me as a parent, but I can say it's really great to see something that started off just as an idea become a tradition. So thank you for all the work that you've put into making sure our kids understand what Freedom Week is all about. Thank you for all the work. I can't wait to see what comes up next.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna keep moving forward. If you don't feel like you want to stay with us, you don't have to, but people are always welcome to come to the school board meetings. Okay, so next we're going to move on to our superintendent's report with David Krenz.
Thank you, Chairman Bay, members of the school board, awesome community. I want to start by again congratulating all those individuals involved with the Freedom Week. I've been able to participate the last 11 years that I've been in the district, and it is a phenomenal opportunity. It's one of the things I really look forward to and really appreciate the invitation each year. I'm talking about Norm, may he rest in peace. I always found each year that he talked, I learned something new. So that was always a learning experience for me. On a little sadder note, I'd also like to recognize Marnie Zhang, school board chair for St. Paul, who passed away from the coronavirus today. It's a sad virus, and it just goes to show no matter what age you are or what position you're in, it affects all of us in some form or another. On to some a little bit better information and news. The calendar survey has been compiled and completed. I forwarded that to the school board and to the working group committee, the survey committee. Please take time to look that over. I've also invited Baker Tilly, when things get a little bit more normal, to come in and present their interpretation and also to be able to answer any questions that we may have. The good news is the positive side of that showed really a positive increase of almost, I would say, when you look at those that had no feelings, almost 13–14% increase in the support for balanced builder. That would take us from that 49% over 60%. That was very good. There's still a real solid group, about 30% that are anti-balanced calendar, but some of their reasons that were given, and as I look through the data, are things that we can address, that could address, and really give us a plan of action that we could go forward to address with individuals who have concerns about the survey or about the balanced calendar. Next, I can't say enough about the positive reaction and the positive graduation ceremony that was put together by Andrea and her team. She teamed up with community support members like Cornell Corporation, parents and students to put together a one-of-a-kind celebration, and she even ordered up a beautiful day, so you can't ask for anything better than that. So Andrea, thank you very much for all your effort along with your entire team. Believe me, I understand the pressures you were under, but know that you stood on the ground and did what was right, not only for our students, but for our community as a whole. On another graduation note, just to talk about the impact, and I think people have forgotten with all the things that are happening in the world right now, with things reopening, that COVID-19 or the coronavirus has gone away, the COVID-19 epidemic is gone. My two oldest live in Stevens Point. My middle son works in the Stevens Point School District. They had their graduation a couple of weeks ago. Again, Wisconsin, as we know, their state Supreme Court outlawed any shutdowns. There are parties throughout. One party, talking to my son over the weekend, an individual had a party. Someone came to that infected with coronavirus. In a week's time, 8 others have tested positive. Hundreds of people were at that party. Who knows what the effect will be? So we can't say enough about staying well, staying healthy. We may think it's gone just because things are limited, but they are not. They're still there, and people are still dying from it. And finally, we're well down the road of ending this year, obviously, but are beginning the process of planning for next school year. We've got some ideas that need to be honed. Next Monday, the administrative team will be meeting the social distancing, a large meeting space, 10 people to designated areas, etc. All of that in place to begin our plan for next year. We'll probably put several scenarios together. We have not received definite guidance from the state of Minnesota, either MDE or MDH yet, but we'll be waiting that. But I know, just as we did with our distance learning and what we're doing for our summer school, our administrative team will put together an excellent plan that'll truly meet the needs of our students. So that is my report. Any questions?
Doesn't sound like there are any questions. Thank you, Superintendent Krenz. Are there any board reports?
I would just like to echo David's kudos for graduation. In fact, I emailed Andrea later that night and said, I am so sorry for ever having doubted any of the plans that you had we're trying to push another agenda because it went really, really well. It was, this, you gotta remember, this is me saying this and it's going a long ways. It was the most fun graduation that I've been to, and my son graduated 2 years ago. This was a ton of fun, being able to interact with the parents, seeing the joy. We get to see the prim and proper in the auditorium. We got to see pure, open joy on Friday night, and I really thank you, Andrea, and your whole team for putting that together. It was pretty darn spectacular. Even the timing glitch that was backing the cars up, what, a third of the way through, you fixed it. It was no big deal. I mean, everything just went as smoothly as could possibly have gone. And I thank you for your leadership on that. And I am still eating crow.
I would tag on to that and say that the picture display at Westcott Field was incredible. It was a very visual community outreach there. That was very good. And also a thanks to the Hormel photographer. He did an absolutely spectacular job on site. And he was sweating bullets because he was physical during the moment. I mean, he took double pictures of each graduate, and he was so just polite and professional and congratulating the graduates. And you could tell that, you know, they were really getting into it, that they were feeling special in that moment. And from our perspective, the kids that, you know, particularly the ones in the back of pickup trucks and out of the sunlights, the background was just this gorgeous blue. And it's just, I think they're gonna get some pictures that are spectacular. And that'll last. That's things that are gonna be on their desktop, you know, or on their wall or whoever in the file cabinet. But a real thanks for everybody that put in the effort to make it such a great affair.
I'd agree with you,
Yeah.
Kathy.
I want to echo what Peggy and Kathy both said. It was fantastic, but also I want to just, throw a shout out to Dylan Kircher, organized that parade, and along with other parents and community members, and just, a big thanks to him for organizing that. So we just appreciate that. That just added to all of the fun and brought our entire community into a graduation ceremony that they would have otherwise not been a part of if it would have been inside the walls of Oakland. So that was really fun also. So thanks to Dylan and all those parents that contributed in that way.
I'd echo what Kathy said, but I'd also like to point out the outstanding efforts of Ryan Meyer here, who clicked photographs the other night, but also that Woodson video that he put together was just outstanding. And I drive the senior dining meals for Smart Transit, the United Way, Hormel Foods, Semcac. We deliver, I think, about 3,500 meals a week. That number that Mary Wycombe came out with between March 23rd and May 19th of 149,000 meals is absolutely outstanding. My hat's off to Mary, Mr. Krenz, and the entire district for doing a phenomenal job to feed the people of our district. It's absolutely unbelievable. Thank you.
I think I'll wrap up the board reports with just a few words about both the end of the school year and the graduation. In terms of the end of the school year, we know it looked very different from what we normally would experience. I want to commend every single building for finding a special way to reconnect with students after being separated for such a long time. I personally went through several, even schools that I don't have kids in. Sorry, Wilson, I crashed your party. But it was really great to see how much support our faculty, our staff, our administration, every single individual in each building truly does care about all the kids that we've got in this district. It was so fun Friday night to watch Andrea reading the names of the graduates. with tears in her eyes, I'm gonna put you on the spot for a moment. Just, you know, I could see that there was a lot of appreciation, and Friday night couldn't have happened without the village that it takes to raise our kids. You know, there's just so much the school district could do. And the community not only filled in the gaps, but they just like overflowed them. And it was just so great to see all the support, all the people step up and really demonstrate a love for this community and the kids and the next generation. So I'm very excited to see what we do next year. No pressure. You're welcome.
They love you, Andrea, those students.
All right, does anybody else have anything to say about board reports? If not, we'll keep moving forward with business. Starting with our consent agenda, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move. Second.
A roll call vote?
Dubay,
Yes?
Fox,
Yes.
Getz,
Yes,
Green,
yes,
Yes.
Leathers,
Aye.
Lees,
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. We will move into efficient and effective operations, beginning with the request approval of donations with Executive Director of Finance and Operations, Lori Bolts.
Madam Chair Dubay, Superintendent Krenz, and members of the board, for your consideration to accept gifts. I'll hit the highlights. $500 from Hormel Employee Match for the boys tennis program. Then $1,137.50 from Hormel Foods Charitable Trust for Netherland Elementary for expenses.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the donations?
So
So moved.
Second.
We've got a second from Don Fox.
Yes.
Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to thank the community for supporting the students in the Western Public Schools. Their generosity is beyond comment.
Thank you. All right, roll call vote?
I would also like to note that there's a third donation on here from Meyer Guards of $100. So I'd like to thank them for that as well.
Thank you, Peggy.
Who's that from?
Say that one more time.
Your guards.
Mirror guards for $100.
For Banfield's Paint the Town Pink fundraiser.
Great.
Say how about that, Lori, how about that dollars that the school board submitted? Remember that? You and I talked about that one day,
I'll have to circle back.
$50 or something like that?
Right. I'll have to circle back with Amy on that.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I think we're ready for a roll call vote.
Dubay,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Getz,
yes,
Green,
Yes.
Leathers,
Aye.
Lees,
Yep.
Young.
Yes.
All right, motion passes for the donations. We're going to continue on with the request approval of the 2020-2021 medical and dental insurance rates with Lori Bolts.
Madam Chairman Dubay, Superintendent Krenz, and the rest of the school board, for your consideration is approving the health and dental premium rates for the upcoming fiscal year 2021. We have a self-insured plan, and the good news is our health insurance or our health claims have been at lower than expected rate or level so far this year, which weighed in very favorably then for our renewal for the upcoming year. And so we are able to bring to you a renewal of a 0% increase for all health plans, as for the health, and then for dental also a 0% increase there. Just to kind of point out overall the self-insured plan for health insurance has been very favorable. Over an 8-year average, the increase has only been 5%, which is really, really good. We're fortunate that the last 2 years, it's been at a 0% increase. So, very good news, it definitely helps with our budget, and, so I just need formal approval.
Alright, can I get a motion to approve the 2020-2021 medical and dental insurance rates?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Other than to say thank you for that,
Yeah.
0% is great. We'll get a roll call vote. Dubé? Yes. Fox?
Yes.
Getz?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Leathers?
Aye.
Lees?
Yes.
Yes.
I'd like to thank the staff for not getting sick.
All right, motion passes for the 2020-2021 medical and dental insurance rates. Next, we will hear from Lori Goltz on the 2020-2021 original budget.
Madam Chair Dubé, Superintendent Kranz, members of the board, for consideration be approving next year's original budget. And I'll kind of hit the highlights here. Again, emphasizing how much that health insurance renewal being at 0% helps our budget. Right now, the unassigned general fund is reflecting a loss of $412,000. So much improved from the previous fiscal year that we're currently in. If, just to give you a reference point, if health insurance had increased 5%, that would have been an additional $500,000 of expense. And so it was very fortunate again for our financials. With this budget plan, it does reflect a lot of cost efficiencies we put in place in the 1920 year, and also some additional revenue streams coming in the new year 2021, and a lot of effort in finding effective and efficiencies that would come into this budget plan, as well as we did cut 5 FTE as well, which we had to put in place in order to realign, make progress in realigning our financials. And so it is really good news. We're making strides of reducing that deficit spending level in the unassigned general fund, and also overall other components of the general fund as well are improving. The other funds are listed there. I'll just quickly highlight a few things. Food service has a slight deficit spend, but it includes equipment purchase plan, so that's basically what's driving that. Community service, we are projecting some deficit spending there based on the plan of offering programming. And so it's just a matter of spending down some fund balance, and that can be done because they do have an adequate fund balance in various categories to go ahead and offer additional programming, I'll say, for like a 1-year period. Building construction fund just reflects the final construction pieces of the McPhail project, which will be wrapping up in this upcoming fiscal year. And the other funds, as noted, debt service, trust fund, and internal service fund. So overall, it is an encouraging budget plan. Circling back to the general fund, I just wanted to point out that our main revenue stream for the general fund is the Gen Ed formula, which is based on the number of students that we serve. This projection is showing an increase of what's called adjusted ADM, average daily membership. So an increase of students of about 27 is what's anticipated. That is yet to be, remain to be seen if we're able to grow even slightly. But it is an assumption being made based on our enrollment trending. So overall, we're in a better position than we were last year.
That's great news.
It is great news.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I've read some things about opening up school next fall, and the fact that some districts have looked to employees over 65 years old and found ways to buy them out because they don't want people 67 years old being in the district, it could impact their health. Districts have to buy PPE. They might have to put up plexiglass between areas. Janitors at night are gonna have to sanitize the school. Can I ask you, where's that money gonna come from?
Well, actually, that's a very good question, and I'm glad you brought it up, is one thing that's gonna help us a lot. In fact, John was getting more information today, and we were in discussion about it. We will be getting some additional federal funds called Pears Act, and it's for the purpose of special additional costs during this COVID pandemic. And it will help cover these additional costs or even loss of revenue. The point of it is so that it kind of hold us harmless, just to provide a funding stream for some extra costs, such as what you're pointing out. And so we are actually gonna start putting a plan together of the various ways we could utilize this funding. I've been compiling a list of either revenues that have been lost in the community service fund or other types of expenses that the general fund is having to incur. And even as of last month, that tally was over $700,000. So that funding will definitely come in very handy. And I don't have that in the mix yet, and because we have to apply for it and get approved, and then in the budget amendment, that will be reflected in the financials of how we would be utilizing that.
Are there dollars available for state, or not state, but local, municipal, and school districts? Once the state legislature has a special session, are they sitting on a pot of money for school districts?
No, in fact, with the new economic forecast that came out, you know, the economies nationwide and in our state, there is a big detriment to the state budget and the state financials. And so best case scenario for public schools is that we'll be able to retain the current formulas that the legislature previously set for this upcoming fiscal year. But what the legislature may do is adjust what's called the metering, delay the payments to us. We might have to wait longer to get the money. So it will become a cash flow challenge for us. And hopefully that will be no worse than that.
And that's happened previously
in
other
right, this
periods.
happened back maybe 15, 16 years ago or so, when the state of Minnesota had a budget problem, a budget challenge, and what they did was exactly that. They kept the formulas intact, but delayed the metering, so we had to wait longer to receive our money. And so there's past practice with that approach, so hopefully that will be what they determine to do, and rather than cutting our funding.
So if we get help, it'll probably come from the federal government?
The federal government assistance is in this CARES money that I mentioned.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, Lori.
You bet.
Can I get a motion to?
You mentioned the money that Lori's talking about is all federal dollars. They're really very minimal state dollars that are available, as Lori pointed out. But one thing the state has said is because they put together the biennium, next year is the second year of that biennium, we will not lose any funding. What might happen is you might be metered, but we still will receive the same formula aids that were legislated to us last year during the session. So we will not see a decrease in that. It just might be how the money gets to us.
Thank you, David.
You
Carolyn?
mentioned public schools. Is that colleges too, junior colleges and regular, state colleges, or is that just for high school and below?
So regarding the biennium of funding that David just mentioned, they set funding for K-12 education. That's what I'm talking about. Of course,
Okay.
they do set funding for, the college level as well. Now, as far as the federal CARES money, I'm just aware of the K-12 funding pot that they've made available. Couldn't speak to what colleges might receive.
Hey, it's John, and I did attend a webinar this morning. There is higher education dollars in the CARES funding. It's called Pears, the Higher Education Emergency something or another. But anyway, there is an allocation to higher ed as well. That's separate, but not controlled by MDE.
Thank you.
Kathy?
Okay, yes, I would just like to acknowledge Lori and your diligence in finding efficiencies and resources. That helps the entire district out and our programming and all the needs that are unique to Austin Public Schools. So thank you for that. This is a great report.
Thank you.
As usual.
Can I get a motion to approve the 2020-2021 original budget?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Can we do a roll call vote, Sharon?
Dubé,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Getz,
Yes,
Green,
Yes.
Leathers,
Aye.
Lees,
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
All right, motion passes for the 2020-2021 original budget. Thank you. Moving forward, we are going to look at the request approval for the resolution declaring vacancy on the Austin School Board with Lori Bolts.
Madam Chair, Dubé, Superintendent Krenz, members of the board, for your consideration would be the approval of a resolution, as said, declaring a vacancy for the school board. So on June 2nd, Don Fox wrote a written resignation from the school board to be effective November 2nd, 2020, which would be the day before the general election. And so it's being recommended that the board accept Don Fox's written resignation, and therefore the school board declaring that a vacancy for the office of school board would exist on November 2nd, 2020.
And that would be on the November 3rd ballot, correct?
And yes.
Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
Second.
Do you want me to finish reading it?
You really
No,
want to
well.
get ready? You want to get ready? Yeah.
Should I finish reading it?
Abstain. Abstain.
All right, hang on. Do we have further discussion? All right, roll call vote, Sharon.
Dubé,
Yes.
Fox,
Abstain.
Getz,
yes,
Green,
Yes.
Leathers,
Aye.
Lees,
Yes.
Young.
All right, motion for the resolution declaring vacancy on the Austin School Board passes, and I want to take this opportunity, Don, to thank
Good
you.
reading.
Don,
Yes. I'm listening.
I want to say thank you.
I'm right next to you.
I know
I
you
can't
are.
miss.
I know, but thank you for your years of service.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We'll enjoy these next few months
I
together
loved it.
before we get to.
And Don, not only your tenure on the school board, but the time that you spent in the Austin Public Schools as a teacher, a principal, and an athletic coach are just beyond reproach. Just a fantastic job.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You spent more time with various students than probably anybody ever has.
You were tugging on your leg, weren't they?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Well, thank you, Don.
Thank you.
We can get emotional later, right? All right.
I'll go cry in the car.
Yes.
All right.
I'm crying now.
All right. Thank you for that. Next we have the request approval of resolution calling special action to fill said school board vacancy.
Madam Chair, Dubé, Superintendent Krenz, members of the board, for consideration is this resolution calling for a special election to fill the school board vacancy. And as of November 2nd, 2020, the vacancy will exist on the office of the school board member with a term expiring the first Monday of January 2023, and holding an election in conjunction with the general election on November 3rd, 2020 will permit this vacancy to be filled at the earliest time. And this special election will be held to elect one individual to fill this vacant seat on the school board, of which the term would expire again on January 2nd, 2023. And it goes on to explain what the ballot question would look like and so forth.
So to sum that up, that's essentially allowing us to fill out the rest of Mr. Fox's term. So if anybody were to file for that, they would have to specifically file for the 2-year term.
Exactly, yep. And
So
a
that would be
candidate
very
cannot file for this and the other position.
So
They
they
have
would
to
have
choose.
to choose one or the other.
One or
That's
the other.
good to know.
Mm-hmm,
That'll be very important.
yep.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the resolution calling special election to fill the school board vacancy?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote.
Dubay,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Getz,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Leathers,
Aye.
Lees,
Yes.
Young.
Yep.
All right, motion passes
Aye for an aye.
to call the special election to fill the school board vacancy. Next, we're going to take care of the other seats by talking through the request approval of the request calling for a general election for school board seats.
Madam Chair Dubay, Superintendent Krenz, members of the board, for your consideration would be a resolution calling for the school district general election, which is for the purpose of electing 3 school board members for terms of 4 years each. Again, this would be held on the 3rd day of November 2020 at the statewide general election. And the ballot questions will be unique for these board seats compared to the vacancy board seat. And again, it will be on the statewide general election.
Can I get a motion to approve the request calling for general election for school board seats?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Let's do a roll call vote. Sorry, that was a habit.
Dubay,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Getz,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Leathers,
Aye.
Lees,
Yes.
and Young.
Yes.
All right, motion passes for the request calling for a general election for school board seats. Continuing on with the election theme, we are going to talk through the request approval of resolution establishing dates for filing affidavits of candidacy for the election.
Madam Chair Dubay, Superintendent Krenz, members of the school board, this resolution establishes dates for filing affidavits of candidacy for the election. Now these affidavits would be for both the general and special elections of these board seats, as the vacancy created by Don Fox is considered a special election. And these filing dates would begin July 28th, 2020, and shall close August 11th, 2020, which would involve a $2 filing fee and would be made prior to 5 p.m. on August 11th, when the office would close.
Can I get a motion to approve the resolution establishing dates for filing affidavits of candidacy for election?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call
Yes,
vote?
I'd like to make a point. We have a large number of non-white students in our district. And this is for those of you who are watching this meeting. I would encourage you, if you are out there, to either run for the special board position or one of the 3 regular board positions and represent your community. And it's an extremely important position. You'll learn a lot, and it'll be a good experience, but I would urge any of you who are watching this meeting tonight to, give it a try. Put your hat in the ring and try to represent your students, your family, and those people in our district who need you, greatly. Thank you.
Along that same announcement, Don, I'd like to also announce that as we do every time there is a school board election, we hold an information session and welcome anyone to attend that session. We'll have that either live or virtually, and that'll be on June 29th, so well before the filing time, so people can come and find out all the information they need, what it takes to be a school board member, what the responsibilities are, what the obligations are, and the timelines. That'll be June 29th in the district office boardroom where you're meeting right now, as well as virtually at 5 p.m. But welcome anybody to attend that who is interested.
Great. Did I take a motion? Did I take a motion? I did. Are we ready for a roll call vote? Is that where we at? Yep. Yes. Let's do a roll call vote. I am.
Dubay,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Getz,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Leathers,
Aye.
Lees,
Yes.
and Young.
Yes.
Carolyn, don't worry, we'll be talking about the elevator before.
I know.
before long.
I know. We're getting there. All right. So motion passes for the resolution establishing dates for filing affidavits of candidacy for election. Next, we have the request approval request calling for a special election for an operating levy referendum with Lori Volz.
Madam Chair Dubay, Superintendent Krenz, member of the board. I first want to present some information on the financials. I'm going to set the stage and explain some data as we then would consider this resolution for an operating referendum. So I have some data here that just shows how Austin Public Schools compares to others in the Big Nine. If we can get that up.
I was just trying to get this out of the way here.
All right. So you'll see Austin on the far left. And as this is a 3-year, this is 3-year actual audited data, but it kind of gives you a flavor of the other Big Nine, and you'll see pretty much a common trend here that almost all the Big Nine are declining in their fund balances of the unassigned general fund. Again, the unassigned general fund is where our main operations are in the general fund. It's where our staff is charged, operations like fuel and materials and things like that. And so for Austin, we have been running some deficit spending. You'll see the black bar means fiscal year ending 2017, red bar is 2018, gray is 2019. So our last audited audit report showed that we are now below our fund balance policy at 6.9%. And just as a side note there, kind of to explain what that kind of means for us is in that 18-19 year where we dropped down to 6.9% as a fund balance, that equated to $1 million loss, and we're $1 million under or less than our fund balance policy. Another piece to kind of keep in mind is that the current year that's wrapping up, FY20, which we have yet to go through audit, but we were budgeting to, projecting to be deficit spending in that year as well, of about $900,000 in the unassigned general fund. So we've had deficit spending main driver there had to do with our enrollment plateaued when we've been growing substantially. So But I thought this graph was interesting because it shows we're not alone in the financial challenges. I think it was Rochester's the one that's been very stable and slightly growing, just slightly. But it does compare us. You can see that we are below most of them, Winona being the lowest. Mankato is lower than us right now as well as fund balance percentage. Next slide.
Can I ask you a question about the slide?
Sure.
Well, if I recall, when you handed out that sheet of per pupil units, Northfield was at the top with an astronomical number. We were at the bottom with what, 345. Winona was like at 1,200 or something like that. Why is Winona so abysmal compared to us? What's going on there?
Well, Winona, even though they do have an operating referendum above us, their spending level, their cost per student is very high for a variety of different reasons. But that is but pointing out in one of the next slides will show this comparison. So you'll see Northfield is at 1,700 per pupil in an operating referendum. Austin is the far left at only $42 per pupil. And you can see that the average is in the round of 800 and some per pupil. And this really tells the story. The reason that we're at a point because we're not growing anymore, now we need an operating referendum more than ever. Other districts have had to go before that, before us, for an operating referendum, and even with that, most of them are deficit spending. So what the story is too is that the state of Minnesota is not adequately funding public schools, so districts are having to go to their public asking for an operating referendum to keep the programs that they want and need for serving their students.
Well, I have to apologize. I said 345, but it's really 40.
Right.
Have you shown that graph right there to these entities that you've gone out and talked to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what is the response?
You know, I would say those that see this information are really surprised. I mean, the good news is we've been able to get by all these years with such a low amount. But it's just now with our enrollment kind of plateauing, now is when we need an operating referendum. But yeah, it's a surprising figure, and it kind of makes sense why we are posing this question to the school board.
Have you talked to other school business people? How many of them are going for a referendum in the Big Nine? Have you any idea?
Actually, I don't know exactly. I've heard talk that some might, but some may in the next 2 years, either this fall or next fall. So I'm not exactly sure how quickly they will. But even those that are talking about going to the public, they're asking for an increase above and beyond what they currently have. Many of them are considering that. So, and here, you know, we're at such a low amount. And they're a higher amount than us and still looking to ask for an increase above and beyond what they currently have.
And I still think you said that the Big Nine averages were like $820.
Right, yep, $800 some dollars, and then also the state average, for those districts that pass an operating referendum, the state average is $1,040 per student.
And does some of this increase come from the state if we were to pass this with 40% or something like that?
So nearly 50% of an operating referendum comes in the form of state aid, and I'll get to that too in a minute.
Okay. Sorry.
Yep, no problem.
Just quickly, Lori, to point out, to answer Dick's question, in our discussions as Big Nine superintendents, all but Northfield have considered the referendum. They're obviously in good shape. The idea of a referendum is to get you that money on a yearly basis, so that you can, not that you are a bank if you're gonna hold that money, but that you will cover your costs, and that's why people deficit spend to get down to whatever their mark is for their fund balance policy. But places like Winona, and I've said this many times, they passed a referendum one of the largest in the state at the time, but they spent the money right away. You can't do that. And our plan is not to spend all the money right away, but to bank part of that over time, build up your fund balance, and then after the last 5 years, then you spend down what you have to get to that fund balance policy mark. So it's to average that. The other thing I want to point out, if you look at that average that Don is talking about, we haven't asked for an increase since 2003. If you take the average amount of all the referendums, not the state, which is much higher, but the big nine, and the bottom part of the big nine, which is about $450, $500, we have saved the local taxpayers over $40 million in school taxes by not asking for money. And I cannot emphasize that enough. We didn't need it, we didn't ask for it. And I think that's important for people to understand also.
That's a very good point, David, thank you. What should the unfunded balance be in relation to the budget, 8%?
8%.
And we're currently at?
We are projected to be
6, 7.
at 5 point, we're projected to be at 5.16% at the end of this fiscal year.
Closer to 8?
Instead of 8.
Would
So we're a
this
couple
put us-
million short.
Would this put us close to 8 or above 8 or?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So this chart just shows, kind of gives a flavor of general fund expenses per student. And Austin's on the left at 13,400, and you'll see, for example, other districts similar. A lot of them are around that 13,000, between 12 and 13,000 per student. So just kind of a reference point. But what's interesting, Northfield, who has a very high opting referendum, their expenditure per student is very similar to us in the general fund.
Like David said, Winona's is pretty high. Do you think, I see Faribault's is pretty high. Is that because of the large percentage of minority students? Is that part of it?
For Faribault, I'm sure that's a component, yep. Here's another very interesting chart. This is property taxes per ADM or per student for 18-19. And you see Austin is quite low, or I'll say economical for the property owner here in Austin. Keep in mind, Northfield and Winona were higher in their opting referendum, but also overall property taxes, which include debt service. So when David says we've actually saved the taxpayer so many dollars, millions of dollars, because we delayed going for an operating referendum until now, look how low we are, and it just kind of puts them in perspective that it is time to proceed and make this effort of asking the public for an operating referendum. Next slide.
With our student population now, should that be maintained, then would our referendum cover our situation for how many years, 5 or?
The referendum vote is for a 10-year period. That's the language, 10-year. And so, yeah, it's going to be, well, extremely important through the entire 10-year period. But it'll be utilized and ratcheted up over years. Like David said, won't spend it all the first year. We'll tap it in and into it as our inflationary costs go up. So another piece of inflation is to illustrate is special ed, because the state of Minnesota does not fully cover what our costs for special ed. So this is just kind of an interesting chart. You'll see that our revenues in the black bar, red is our expenses, and the difference is the amount that the general fund is having to pick up the difference. So that's $1,500 per student. For Austin, we're right in the middle of that graph, and we are probably actually the highest but it's just a reference point of a data point. Next slide.
Now, would this include, foreign students, basically, like moving, like, ones that moved in from St. Paul at Quality Park, or what?
So if they're a resident of our district, yes,
Okay,
so, does that answer your question?
yeah,
So enrollment history, when I said we've been able to delay until now, because we've been growing and now we've plateaued, so this shows some enrollment history. Back from 2010, Austin was at 4,363 students. And now in 18-19, our last audit year, we were at 4,954. And you can see those last 2 years, 17-18 compared to 18-19, we dropped by 30 ADMs. So that's when this plateau, and so the fact that we're not growing, that's where our financials are meeting some difficulty and why we need to operating referendum. I just thought this graph kind of illustrates it for you. You can kind of see where that growth has been happening, which has been so financially beneficial to our district when you're growing. That brings cost efficiencies is a very good news for the district.
do you have any idea how many schools are growing? You wouldn't have numbers on that.
I don't have that off the top of my head. Actually, I don't know, David, if you have a feel for that statewide.
It's only about 10 to 15% of the districts in the state are growing. But again, I'd like to point out this is ADM adjusted.
Yes.
So it's not the actual bodies. We have more bodies, but to get a full ADM, they have to be here for the full year. And this is the other concern we have over time is we have a lot of in and out migration, which hurts the district in terms of a revenue source, because we might at one time have substantially more students who then leave us at another time. So that affects our revenue also.
Absolutely.
Carolyn?
Yeah,
Okay, Lori, I have a question regarding the COVID and how that have we tracked any sort of movement because of the school being out with COVID as far as students leaving the district, or do we not have an idea of what's happening out there?
Yeah, we always track our enrollment. I mean, we get a enrollment report each week and we review and to see what changes there are. And it's been continued to be quite stable. And so that's the good news. The only caveat to that is that we also generate ADMs on extended time programs such as targeted services or even in the ALC. And so that particular component will see a decline to some level. But that overall, that's a smaller, much smaller category of our adjusted daily membership of which we're funded on. So, right, what is going to be interesting though is going to be enrollment in the fall. But, you know, we're certainly hoping that enrollment just stays solid and at a similar level as we're ending the year here. I don't know, David, if you have any other thoughts on that?
Just that I was on a Zoom meeting at noon with Rotary and updates on different aspects on the economics or businesses, and then on housing. And housing seems to be very stable in the community. Matter of fact, the new apartments, that 80+ unit facility just opened, and 2 weeks ago they're 40% full already. So that's a good sign in terms of potential growth in student enrollment.
Okay, do we have any idea of kindergarten enrollment that's coming up with registration?
Yes, we do, and we're keeping track of that. We're about on track to hit Hazel's numbers right now. We'd like to see that bigger because it is about 25 to 30 down from last year's numbers, which were up about 20 from what Hazel had, but it still is right on track of what we anticipated.
Thank you.
So on the next slide, that actually I have something regarding kindergarten in a moment, but this, slide actually shows the, fall of 2019, what our head counts were by grade level, so you can kind of see where we have a higher bubble of students in grade 6, that will of course be moving up into the next grade level. Kind of gives you a flavor for, the different age level of the students and what enrollment is. David touched about on the kindergarten count, which this year, 1920, we were at 404 in the fall, and but nice and strong there. The projection for this fall is, as David said, about 380 is what we're projecting. We'll see how it pans out. Okay, and here's another one regarding kindergarten. Just kind of gives you an interesting flavor of that one statistical analysis like Hazel uses, as well as schoolfinances.com is using live births and the trend to how many of those live births ends up being in kindergarten enrollments in our district. And so you can see historically kind of where we've been at. That's the red bar is our kindergarten enrollment. And again, in 2019, we're at 404, which we were up, and hopefully be around 380 or so or better for the fall.
What happened to the 450 or 350? How can you account for the difference between 863 and 404? What happens to those?
Those are like, if they come to Austin to have their baby, but they're from a surrounding school district. Yeah. Here's another interesting comparison. So, of course, we have a high free and reduced count, high number of economically disadvantaged children in our district. And this, we're on the far left. The blue bar that shows 55% is the data for 2020, and it shows 3 years prior to that. And you can see other districts similar to us, Faribault even being higher at 62%. Albert Lee being kind of next after that, similar to us in the demographics in that regard. And so it's just kind of interesting to see that and see how Northfield is only at 25%, yet they have a very high operating referendum. It's kind of interesting nuance there. Next slide. So this is a funding stream that is directly tied to our free and reduced count. One thing that's really helping us out, the fact that we have a very high free and reduced rate, we also get then basic skills revenue at a higher level. And you'll see Austin at the 5.5 million, and Faribault being a very similar level to us in that they're at 5.3 million. Basic skills encompasses compensatory revenue, which is driven by free and reduced count, as well as EL funding. And so the two together come up with what's called basic skills. I just thought it's kind of interesting because it does show that we're getting some additional funding for the fact that we have high free and reduced counts. This chart is just kind of interesting. What it's telling you is, since 2010, what is the percentage increase in enrollment and the percentage increase in teaching FTE, and this is based on STAR data. So it just shows as you grow, obviously you're gonna hire staff, and so that is showing that we had a little change there between 18-19, and a component there is the fact that we had added staff, anticipating, increased enrollment, but we'd added staff, but our enrollment actually went down slightly, and that's why we had a little tweak in the trending there on the graph. This graph just kind of illustrates that.
Just to make a point, that staff that was hired were in critical areas, EL and special ed.
Yes.
It wasn't like it was general ed staff.
Right.
And it was because we were understaffed in those areas, and Mark had felt, Stotts had felt that it was needed at that point in time.
Yes. Very good point. So again, just to bring back this slide, this is where we're at with our operating referendum, and, just to kind of summarize, again, we're only at $42, per student, and, we are asking the board to consider an increase. And the next slide shows what that is. The proposal is to increase the operating referendum by $505 per pupil for a 10-year period. That is the proposed referendum ballot question. And the next slide shows the breakdown of what that means. Upon passage of a new operating referendum, it would mean an increased revenue of $2.8 million. 49% would come in the form of state aid, and then 51% would be a local levy. So just to illustrate a tax impact situation, an example, kind of an average family or a home in Austin is a $125,000 valued home. So on a home valued with a market value of that, they would experience an increase of $9.95 per month as a result of passing an operating referendum. So that's the tax impact example. And of course, as we communicate the operating referendum, we'll provide charts of additional property values and what that increase would mean to the property owner. And so with kind of summarizing this information, I'm asking the board to consider approving the resolution for the operating referendum.
So you're confident the $505 is sufficient for our needs?
I am confident that is a very good number, and it should put us in a good position for many years.
Well, after you got down in the weeds and gave us all those charts, I happen to agree with you.
Good.
Very good, very nice job.
Thank you.
And then go ahead and, see if there's a motion to approve the request calling for a special election for operating levy referendum.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Jennifer, can I ask you a question? I understand that the 45-15 calendar for preschool at the Community Learning Center, that there weren't enough parents to enroll their children. Why was that, you know?
For this year only, we had low interest in that 45-15 option for our preschool students. I don't have any scientific data on this. I'm anticipating it's because of COVID and the anticipation that there might be a surge late summer. That's my unscientific guess based on what I know. It certainly doesn't reflect past years. We've always been able to run 45-15 sections, so that's my guess that intervening factor this year was.
So perhaps parents wanted to hold their children out and see how things went.
I think just choosing traditional calendar instead.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Alright. Hearing no further discussion, we'll take a roll call vote.
Dubay,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Getz,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Leathers,
Aye.
Lees,
Yep.
Young,
Yes.
Alright, motion passes for the request calling for a special election for operating levy referendum. Thank you for all the work that went into this. I know that it was many hours of planning and talking and analyzing, so we're grateful for that.
Thank
You like doing that, don't you?
I love it, yeah.
Now let's get out of the elevator.
Alright, here we go. Elevator. Request approval of bids for the AHS elevator and alterations.
Madam Chair, Dubay, Superintendent Kranz, and school board members, for your consideration is approving the bid results. The Joseph Company was the best bidder with the best price, and we are recommending base bid and alternate one not accepted. So that $715,000 is the total contract amount being recommended for approval. And just as a side note, this elevator is located in the high school building, but it is part of the McPhail project. This elevator supports the music suite over in the annex. And so it is being paid for from the bond proceeds from the McPhail project. So just to clarify, and, there were 4 bids received, and the results, the dollar amount came in very, very close to the estimate. And so it works out well to proceed with this. One other thing I wanna note is, previously we'd taken a tour and we pointed out where the elevator was gonna be. Actually, it's moved down the hall just a little bit more. They found actually a slightly better location that would involve, less renovation of like HVAC and that type of, piece. And so it actually helps overall with the price and location, so.
And this will ultimately help with, moving instruments from the music rooms that are on the going to be on the second floor of that building, and also the McPhail rooms, any large equipment that needs to go underneath the street and brought up to the first floor versus taking them out into the elements.
Right.
And attempting to cross the street and then
Much
dealing
safer.
with intonation issues and
that
all
too.
the musical problems when taking those kind of instruments outside. So I think it's good to know that that's just the last piece of that whole project.
Why don't you just sneak a skyway in there, Laurie?
We
And,
can do that.
Well, I don't think we're gonna have quite enough money for a skyway, but we do have enough money for our elevator, which.
Donate the funds, Dick, and then we'll call it the Lee's Skyway.
yeah, okay.
Carolyn, just read
Is that on
the
arrival?
Lee's Skyway.
Richard
We can
Lee's.
put it up in lights, neon lights, what do you think?
I love that.
All we need
idea.
is a check for about $2 million.
Just spell my name right.
Oh, that
The other
sounds
thing that's
great.
important here is, this is money that's already, as Lori pointed out, already part of the bond. It's not new money. It is figured into the cost of everything, so it doesn't affect anyone's bottom line at this point.
That's great.
We'll still be using that tunnel for,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, yep.
Great. Can I get a motion to approve the AHS elevator and alteration?
Go. Second.
Alright, further discussion? Roll call vote?
Dubay,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Getz,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Leathers,
Aye.
Please,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Alright, motion passes for the AHS elevator and alterations. Thank
No,
you.
that will be a student elevator, not like the other one, which is a merchandise type.
Right, it's not a freight elevator, it is for students, staff to utilize.
Yeah.
But yes, we'll, be moving musical equipment up and down, but it is for student use.
Yeah.
Great. Alright, we're going to move on to the next section of our agenda with high student achievement. And we're going to talk through the request approval of the 2020-2021 IJ Holton Student Handbook with IJ Holton Assistant Principal Blake Henley.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Dubay, Superintendent Krenz, members of the board. I am here to present the changes to the handbook that we have. This year we have 4 of them. 3 of them stem from the tiered busing that adjust our schedule. We now dismiss at 2:45 versus 3 o'clock, so that's one of the changes in there. We also had a 4 o'clock bus. That is going to be a different time, so we changed, instead of calling it the 4 o'clock bus, we're calling it the after-school activities bus. Along with that, we are adjusting the time for when students are dropped off to align with our support. We will have students able to enter the building and report to the IMC, where we'll have supervision starting at 7:15. This past year it was at 7 o'clock. Those are the 3 that are related to the tiered busing. The other one that we found is we're changing the wordage and the words used from recess to movement break. And that's what we have following lunch. When students finish up their lunch, they go outside for movement break. And that's what we've been calling it at IJ Holt. With that, those are the 4 changes that I have to the handbook, and I would take any questions about those changes.
Yeah, but like Don Leathers, what is the 4 o'clock activity bus, earmarked for?
Yeah, so we have after-school activities that the kids can stay after school and participate in from our Hawks Academy, which is the targeted services academic support. We also have our HEAT, which is where students can sign up for different activities that are 2 to 3 weeks long. And so it's just an opportunity for the kids that wouldn't be able to stay because of transportation, that we offer that busing.
And the bus takes them to their residence?
Close to. It doesn't offer as many stops as the regular bus, but it gets them within a safe walking distance. And that's something that we go over with the kids, figure out where the right stop is for them and help them, figure out how to walk home, because it is a different stop than what they normally would take. And I say that based off of last year's information. I don't know the exact bus stops, if that will change with the tiered busing, but we do work with the kids to know where they are getting dropped off and which direction they should start walking to go home.
Thank you.
Will this activities include basketball and wrestling and
we offer different activities from what Ellis. Those activities that you're thinking of would be more at the Ellis. Ours range, sometimes there's basketball, but sometimes there's a coding class, sometimes they've done different arts and crafts, they've done a makerspace class. It's not just sports activities, it's more than that.
will it include sports?
It can. Some teachers choose to teach a football, some do a basketball, but it is different than the Ellis ones that they offer.
Yes.
Great.
Good questions. Any other questions?
All right, can I get a motion to approve the 2020-2021 IJ Holton Student Handbook?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
No feedback. Dubé,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Getz. Getz,
Yeah.
Green. Oh, okay, Leathers,
Aye.
Lees,
Yep.
Young,
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Motion passes. Yes? 4.
It's got a blender going.
Somebody's either blending or vacuuming.
Somebody's mixing up a margarita. Sherry.
All right, so motion passes on IJ Holton. Thank you, Mr. Henley. We're going to.
Well, I'm not in the office. What are you guys blending in? It sounds like a party.
Yes.
I will be right down.
Is that the noise you're hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're meeting in Lauren's office.
That's the fan on my computer here in my office. I don't know, it's working pretty hard this afternoon.
Man, that's what we're calling it now.
Oh my.
Is it a strawberry fan or a raspberry fan?
This is a PC fan.
I thought maybe somebody was vacuuming in the office.
Blow dry it when I wash it, so that's actually what's going on. Mine's covering for me.
All right, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna do the 2020 Ellis Middle School student agenda with Ellis Assistant Principal Ryan Barnick.
Sure, on that note, my fan and I will get on that. Sorry. Good afternoon, Board Chair Dubé, members of the school board and superintendent. Friends, my name is Ryan Barnick. I'm the assistant principal at Ellis Middle School. I'm here to review the proposed handbook changes for the 2021 school year at Ellis. In your board packet, Appendix 9B is a one-pager on our proposed changes. In addition to some changes relating to the tiered busing, as Mr. Henley spoke about, I'd also like to highlight 3 other ones: a no-saddle belt-to-belt expectations for students, not allowing hoods in our school once they enter, and a detention for students who are skipping class can be defined as more than 10 minutes per class period. At this time, I'd like to entertain any questions that you might have.
hood comment, does that mean that students who are wearing, we'll say sweatshirts with hoods on them will be asked to remove the sweatshirt with the hood on it, or are they just not allowed to wear the hood on the sweatshirt over the head during the day?
Great question. They will not be allowed to wear the hood on their head. They can certainly wear a hoodie all day, just can't have the hood up. We found just due to safety issues, we can't identify students down the hallway from behind. Ms. Gabine and I have spoken about that. We think it's better for students not to wear them while in the school.
Sure, no, understandable. Thank you.
Alright, this is Carolyn. I have a quick question. I know you implemented the no cell bell to bell during this last school year. Has that been a positive experience?
I'm sorry, my fans.
We need to get him a new computer. Has it been a positive experience with the no cell bell to bell since you've implemented it?
It has, absolutely. In fact, we tried it for a quarter allowing cell phones and our behavior just spiked, so we had to do something. Myself and our team, we were dealing with a lot of behavior issues related to the cell phone. So once we implemented that, our data went back down dramatically. So we had a fantastic experience with that. And in fact, myself and the teachers are surprised how well students reacted to that. We think a lot of them wanted it themselves.
Good to hear.
Could you repeat that cell phone, what you're doing with that?
Okay, so the first quarter we had students, they could bring their cell phone to school, use it in class for research. What happened was students were using it inappropriately, texting their friends, looking up things they shouldn't be, getting others to gather inappropriately in between classes. So now we're not allowing students to have their cell phone out from the start of the school day until the end of the school day. If a student wants or needs to call their parents for an emergency or just needs to call, they can come to my office or the central office and then call their parents from their cell phone in front of us and with us.
Sounds like a good move.
Yeah, it's just a big distraction, and it took us a quarter to figure it out, and we had great success those last 3 quarters.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the 2020-2021 Ellis handbook?
So moved.
Second?
I'm not gonna continue any conversation for Connor and Mr. Barnick. Can I get a roll call vote?
Dubé,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Getz,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Leathers,
Aye.
Lees,
Yeah.
Young.
Yes.
All right, motion passes approving the 2020-2021 Ellis Middle School. I called it a handbook, it's a student agenda, correction there. Thank you so much. Let's see if we can help him with his computer.
If you submit a work order to Eric Carter, they can fix that in the BIOS.
I'm on it, thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, next we have the request approval of the 2020-2021 Austin High School student agenda with AHS administrative team.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Dubé, members of the school board, Superintendent Krenz. Before I start with the handbook, I just would like to publicly say thank you to our entire community for all the support that they gave during graduation. It was not just a high school event, it was a community event. Hormel Foods, the Paramount, the Art Center, parents, and just community members truly made it a very, very special event for our kids, and we got to play a part in the community effort. And so just publicly wanted to say thank you to everybody for everything they did to support our kids. All of our kids through distance learning, but especially our graduates here at the very end. It was a very special time. So thank you to everyone. In regards to our student handbook, we have some changes that will take place throughout the book. So just some grammatical and other changes, but specifically we changed dates throughout the document to reflect our graduating years. We added new staff and deleted separating staff to our staff list so that there's communication information there for them to contact faculty members. We added an attendance, some attendance information in regards to experiential learning, I should say. Experiential learning is part of the state statute in which all of our students must have some work-related experience. It could be through job shadowing, it could be through mentorship, but the attendance plan would allow our students a half day each year of their 4 years at Austin High School to take time out of the building to go and take part in those efforts.
And we do provide many of those efforts through our different courses, but if students have something above and beyond that they would like to do, we will support them in that effort through attendance measures.
Andrea?
Yeah.
Don Leathers, how did you come upon deciding on a half day?
We worked with our counseling team and just the different opportunities that we have for our kids throughout our 4 years of high school. That would be 2 full days of opportunities. And like I said, that's above and beyond any of the other activities that are planned. So again, we work closely with Austin Aspires on job shadowing events every year. We work with our AVID and REACH programs to get kids out in the community doing different jobs and in different work experiences. We have mentorship programs. We work with our CTE departments on doing several different trips and things like that. So there's opportunities already built into our school day. This is for our students if they want to do above and beyond and maybe a little bit more personalized experience.
Okay, thank you.
We removed a component of attendance failures. We do not use attendance to determine student grades in our building. We have other practices to work with students on attendance, and this more closely mirrors our grading philosophy. In the dress code section of our handbook, we kept the dress code exactly the way it is. However, just working with some of our students this last year, listening to what their thoughts and some concerns were, they pointed out that the pictures that were used as defining what the dress code was, some of them were very gender specific and maybe didn't represent all of our student population as equitably, and so decided to take the pictures part out of the description of dress code. However, the dress code itself does stay the same. We're going much more digital in many of our approaches across the building, and so we added information about where to find information on our AHS website, just as a point of reference for our families, to know that that is an excellent place for them to go and look. Worked with Lisa Quidnow to update our activities list, specifically adding speech as one of our activities. And then we updated our bell schedule with the tiered busing. We're making some changes to our schedule. Last school year, we also did a pilot program and looking at ways that we can support students in our building during the school day. And it will include flex as well. So we did update our bell schedule. Any questions?
All right, can I get a motion to approve the 2020-2021 Austin High School student agenda?
So moved. Second.
Great. No further discussion? Roll call vote?
Dubé?
Yes.
Fox?
Yes.
Getz?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Leathers?
Aye.
Lees?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, motion passes approving the 2020-2021 Austin High School student agenda. Thank you, Mrs. Malo. We're gonna look at some other business. First, we have the request approval of the Columbus Day resolution, which has my name up next to it, but I'm gonna look to you, Superintendent Kranz.
Thank you, Chairperson Dubé, members of the school board. This is an annual resolution that the school board has to make so that we can hold school on Columbus Day. It's kind of interesting considering the controversy around it, but we still have to do it by a state statute. So I recommend that we approve that the school district can move forward with, school on Columbus Day.
Right, can I get a motion to approve the Columbus Day resolution?
So moved. Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
No, we're gonna do a roll call vote, sorry, have it.
Do it quick. Dubé?
She's getting better at it.
Fox?
Yes.
Getz?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Leathers?
Aye.
Lees?
Yep.
Young?
Yes.
All right, motion passes, we will have school on Columbus Day. Finally, we've got our request approval for the 2020-2021 school board meeting dates. David, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, just that they're the traditional dates that we've established over the past. The only caveat here would be, we are looking at possibly changing our regular meeting location once the recital space is available in our new renovated annex, and maybe possibly holding our meetings there, especially with technology now that we have to live stream with Ryan's help, and then we can put that out on YouTube and establish that for community access. Something we'll talk about as that time grows closer.
Great.
Caroline?
Yes.
Oh, that's very exciting. It would be really fun to, our premier facility that we have for us to be able to use it.
Well,
Thank you.
I would tag on to that and just say it's just a nice way to leverage a space that we have here within the district that can accommodate public entering the space, coming through that McPhail entry. It just makes sense for us to take advantage of the space that we have available to us. So that's great.
Well, and with the enormous popularity of the rec center, it makes it very difficult to hold those meetings down there. It's just,
It helps with parking.
and more power to the rec center.
It's just logistically responsible, right? All right, we will take a motion to approve the 2020-2021 school board meeting dates.
So move.
Second.
Can I get a roll call vote?
Dubay,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Getz,
Yes,
Green,
Yes,
Leathers,
Aye.
Lees,
Yes.
and Young.
All right, motion, oh, sorry. Sorry, Peggy. I jumped the gun.
See, nice thing about
You're
being
good.
in this room, you can move stuff a lot faster.
All right, can I get a motion to
Can
adjourn?
I say one last thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Don with it, so we'd just like to make a second plea to those of you who are watching this meeting and urge you to consider running for the school board and filing before August 11th. I will be running perhaps, and if you get more votes than I do, I'll give you a hug. So try to get on board and run for the office. It's a very important thing.
But only if hugging is allowed by then.
Okay, I'll give you an elbow rub.
Oh, boy. All right.
What do you mean, there's nothing wrong with
On
that?
that note, can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I would like to ask David what he
Second.
hears about the possibility of school starting when. Do you have anything on that at all?
No, good question, Dick, and as I said earlier, we're still waiting on guidance from MDE, Department of Ed, and MDH, Department of Health. Hopefully they told us they're gonna come out with something next week, but we're going to plan for a lot of different caveats. We're planning to start our balanced calendar, start in Sumner and Whitson sections that last week in July. We don't know what it'll look like, either a hybrid, distance learning, or face-to-face, but we're gonna plan for all those scenarios and wait and see what the directions are hopefully next week.
Yeah.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. I'm just gonna go for all in favor? Adjourning?
Yeah.
Aye. All right, thank you all for a wonderful meeting. We will see you next month.